wasn't it 6?
My watch is 6. I'd just like to say beforehand, if you have issues that will merit a discussion, I suggest that you get in touch with David in advance and have it put on the agenda. That way, if there's preparation to be done, we can get information and so forth. So for public comment, it's meant to be something either of a dire nature or a short comment. But like last week when we had questions about the police, if you put that on the agenda, we will get that information for you.
I don't understand that. The public comment, you mean I have to tell you this week if I want to say something 2 weeks from now about something?
This runs for everybody to sign it.
I'm saying that this meeting has gotten very lengthy, it's hijacked the whole meeting of public comment.
It only lasted an hour last week. It only lasted an hour. And I didn't know what it was.
And I think we could put in the time limit on.
Go ahead. You can,
I'm only saying this in order that you may be better prepared. If you have something to say and it's a few minutes, that's fine. But if you have a question about something or want to discuss something and you know it's going to generate a lot of discussion, it would be prudent to just let David know and have an item on the agenda for the next time. If it's really important and can't wait, then fine. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think comment and some of what's been going on, and when the comment gets to asking questions and the party who could be expected to answer it doesn't know that's coming, at some point when things get so critical. Mr. Shoemaker's here, lots of questions and allegations were made about how the town does business, and then subsequently found out that a lot of that stuff was off base. So you had to wait 2 weeks anyway. So anything that you could telegraph and you could get the right person in the room, we could actually move more quickly. And if we put it on the agenda, it informs the public too of what's being discussed in some depth. It's not. I don't think the chairman's intent is to limit discussion. Maybe just organize it.
So if it's something that the select board is aware of, we can talk about it, right?
We can talk about anything.
I'm saying without having to make an appointment for the following. In other words, whatever you guys are aware of as far as the government business, it's okay to talk about. For particular departments, if it's something in the department that you're not aware of, that's what you would rather have moved on.
That's probably a good thing.
Okay, that's a lot clearer.
Okay.
All right.
All right, public comments.
Madam Chairman. I just wanted to inform the board that I put a petition out once again to get the Pledge of Allegiance included into town meeting, and I believe I've got up to 25 signatures on it. I'll give it to the town clerk right now, but it states, shall the town allow time at the beginning of the town meetings for citizens to recite the Pledge of Allegiance if they so choose to. So I would hope that that this would make it to the town meeting, and I'll submit it to the town clerk. Thank you.
This will take just about 30 seconds. I wondered if the minutes of February 17th could be corrected. Rose is really wonderful about taking minutes, but there is a mistake on page 3 where it says, Young said that the PBRSD technology would cost the town $20,000 a year for the next 20 years. And you didn't say that. I listened to the recording.
Good, I have no idea what comes out of my mouth a lot of the time.
No, I actually listened to it, but you didn't say that. It's actually
2,000.
it's actually 9.4% of the total, and every year it will be 9,000, well, I don't know about every year. For FY16, it'll be 9,540. That's what's on the budget. You see what I'm saying?
What was said in the?
Was that comment having to do with Pioneer or the tech school?
Well, it wasn't really in the Pioneer part. The last 57 minutes were all about Pioneer. But it says PVRSD technology budget would be 20,000 a year for 20 years.
Yeah, I don't remember saying that.
You didn't say it.
What
I
did he
think-
say?
He said,
Nobody corrected it till now, so I didn't know.
no, I know that. I just wanted, before it goes out, I thought it could be corrected. You did say that the interest rate is 0.57%. You did say that the first year would be about 10,000, which it is, for Warwick. This is Warwick. And you did say it would be for 4 years. And you did say it would be rolled into the operating budget after this year. I think that's what they said at school committee.
That all sounds familiar, yes.
Okay. So, I thought before that went out with a newsletter, if you could just make that
It
correction.
didn't go out with the newsletter yet? Oh, no.
The 20th is the
That's
deadline.
right, okay. So it's February, yeah, all right.
Okay.
So may I see what you're talking about, and then they will have to vote how to correct it.
Oh, okay. Okay, sure.
Thank you. So you want to make a motion to correct what sentence here?
It's to help dogs that can't walk.
20,000,
All right,
20 years.
so,
Yeah.
Young said that PBR is technology will cost the town 20,000 a year for the next 20 years, so just strike that. Most is
That'd be a lot of money.
Madam
for
Chair,
Warwick.
just to let you, recording.
Okay, does that make sense, Rosa?
Yeah, just strike that sentence.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, guys, it's your minute. No, I made a mistake.
Move to strike the aforementioned statement.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Minutes of the previous
Wait a
meeting.
minute, we done with public? Well, I'm not sure how this works, so I'm just going to give you this now, go to 55 households, 35 households, I got 55 signatures on a petition to cut the police budget back to 22,000, so I don't know how we do it now, so we can bring it up to the next meeting. I would like to see it on the warrant, and I don't know if we put the warrant stuff in now or not.
This is not an article by petition. It is a petition. The standard way would be come to town meeting, and when we get to the police budget, and the department request or the finance committee recommendation is moved, and then stand up and amend it to the figure you like better. We did not deal with the police budget as an article, and this is not an article.
No, I would like to put it on the warrant for a town vote. And from what I understand, you really only need 10 people to do that.
But you do need warrant language, and this is not warrant language.
How nice.
Well, you can't revise it to the signatures that are already here, you gotta go get the signatures again.
I have the originals.
You understand me? People need to sign the thing that is being presented. You know, you can't get their signature and change the wording. But I do believe you're correct for a town meeting, 10 signatures can force it. What I don't know is if the town voted under the omnibus budget, $50-something thousand, and then as well voted your article, I don't know what that would mean. yes and 1 vote no. So if you could abide the process that the town undertakes at annual town meeting to consider budgets and amend the dollar figure when we get to the police budget, that would be the way we do it.
I'll explain something to you that when you do the budget, is that done at the warrant, at the town meeting? Do they do it by department, or is it just a whole general budget?
It is done by department.
By department. Okay, so if it's on the warrant by department, and that's also on the warrant, and people get to read the warrant, they're gonna vote no on one, yes on yes.
No, the police budget is part of Article 5, which is the omnibus budget, and it is over $1 million worth of spending. And the moderator leads the townspeople through the public safety section, it's the fire department budget, and there's an amount. If somebody wants to amend that amount down, they indicate that they want to do that, and then they submit an amendment. Things like things that are not part of the annual budget are taken as articles generally. So it would be confusing to the town meeting, and I don't know whether how the moderator would handle it. If there were basically the same question was being asked twice in 2 different places,
So if I get enough signatures, it's more than half the voters. Why not just put the 2016 budget at $22,000 before the warrant gets put up? I mean, that was only a few houses. It kind of gives a
because you can't,
percentage of
because
how
the
many people.
referendum, Mayor,
Yeah.
sorry, you're talking back and forth. Because referendum and initiative is not very strong in Massachusetts, and you can't thwart the actions of the select board or potential actions of the town meeting by going door to door and collecting signatures in Massachusetts. Works pretty good in California, I think, but not very well in Massachusetts.
Town meetings are better. Because everybody gets to vote at the town meeting.
They have to show up first, though.
Well, that's right, so we're gonna.
So, this can't be a proxy for not showing up at town meeting.
No, it's gonna be for the town meeting, I want it at the town, if not enough people show up, it doesn't mean anything. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about, it being available for them to vote on it.
Yes, John.
I thought he was having it put on, or trying to have it put on as a warrant article,
Yes,
on the warrant.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, it's not. It says, "We, the undersigned, petition to have the police budget rolled back to $22,000. Total police appropriation for the fiscal year 2016, and to put it on the town warrant for a vote."
It's a warrant article.
Is the problem
Go through the omnibus.
Yeah, you
not
have
being a warrant article, procedural
part of
form of this?
It would be non-binding. You could,
Yeah, the town has to vote on it before it becomes,
well, you gotta vote on the
Is,
budget.
can they put, can
Line by
they
line.
do
Well, you have to ask the
warrant
question.
article
We
Prior
voted
to-
line by line.
with the rollback in it? Is there a way for
Well,
them
that's
to
what
do
I
that?
mean,
Is
not
that what
like
they prefer? Or is the problem here simply that this is procedural, this doesn't constitute a warrant article?
Both.
But,
Oh, you got it.
yeah, thank you. So the only way you can do it is with a live.
I don't know, I'm sitting here being that guy that says it's never been done here that way before. It might not be right.
Yeah,
To get to this end result, the normal procedure would be to stand up on town meeting floor and offer an amendment. An amendment gets seconded, then gets
Yeah.
discussed, eventually gets voted on, the amendment gets voted on up or down. The amendment either passes or it doesn't, and then the town takes up either the amended budget item or the original budget alternative amendment.
Excuse me.
Would this be a matter for the moderator to decide?
We could push it that way, it could be something the town council could,
Let's get clarification on this.
If it's intended as a warrant article, and it has a signature, you have to put it on the warrant.
As long as the moderator stated that this is the budget for the police department, it's included in the whole omnibus budget, and then this warrant, other warrant for 22,000 is in it. And say you can vote for the omnibus budget, but if you vote for 22, the road, I think that's kind of, that's pretty clear, to explain to people.
It's up to the moderator to.
Yeah.
Are we finished with that for now?
I go.
Yeah,
I rely on a lot of my information from the video for the week.
I'm sorry, what?
I rely on the information in the video that's recorded on these meetings.
Yeah.
And I got two questions. Are we being recorded tonight? And number two, why was the video or the recording shut off last week, early?
I don't know. Bill?
It was shut off at 45 minutes.
I wasn't aware of that, and this is something that I'm doing personally. I don't have any connection to the Board of Selectmen in doing it, other than I have their permission to do it. I will go back and look at that. I have difficulty editing, and sometimes I try and get, or I always try to get the beginning lopped off, and that may have been what happened, is I took another piece of it out. I apologize. Right, so, my editing software is much more intelligent than I am, because I always get into trouble with that portion, and it wipes a section off the end, and I gotta go back, so, it's a technical error on my part if there was something that was missing, so.
So you take the whole meeting to the very end when it completely finished?
I believe I did,
Okay.
and if so, it's probably still on here.
Okay.
Sure.
Any other public comment? Okay, minutes of the previous meeting, motion to accept?
Motion to accept, but I'd like to comment on something that I probably would have asked to change the minutes on if I had been on the case. It's number 5 on the last page, coordinator report. I said that I was concerned about the ramifications that the DOR thinks we are somewhat wealthier than we think. That is true, but I also said that we should be asking the supporters of the optical cable, if it's going to improve people's values of their homes, does that mean that we will be losing some state money as a result of that increase in value? And I think that David said that sounds like a good idea, and I think we should put that to the people supporting me. The optical cable. Just a comment, I'm not trying to change anything.
Well,
So-
did you say that?
I'm sorry?
I don't recall, did you say that?
Yes,
Okay, then.
I think David probably recalls.
Yeah,
remember you said, you know, that's
I
not.
can't remember what I said, but I think I do remember what you said. What if Rosa just reflected that in the minutes she's making for this meeting?
I'm sorry?
What if Rosa were to reflect that sentiment in the minutes she's making for this meeting rather than correcting these minutes?
That'd be a good idea.
You get the gist of it, Rosa?
Yeah.
So, is that a second?
You made a motion, I thought I made a motion.
Okay, second.
Everybody.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, I do recall Nick raising that question. It was not answered at the meeting. I don't have an answer now, but the broadband committee will look into it.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay, do we have any chapter 268 exemptions? Nominations and appointments. I nominate Rosa Calcari to the MDAR to be inspector of animals. Any discussion?
Yeah, is there anyone else out there who might want to do the job? Yeah, I want to.
Oh, you want it?
Maybe for one more year, because I have animal control for one more year, but I'd be thinking into the future after that. And, yeah, I'm thinking people gotta start looking for somebody else to start doing some of these animal things.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Broadband and fiber to the home. Fiber to the home, Warwick West project, that we talked.
I guess so. We had a meeting last Tuesday, and there were over 35 residents here. It was very good attendance. We had two representatives making presentations. One was Joe Markarian from the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, and the other was Jim Draw from the Wired West Executive Committee. Joe talked a lot about the numbers and passed out a handout. He also had a projection with the same numbers that were in the handout of the long-term bonding. Joe wanted to make it very clear to residents we were talking about bonding, which means raising taxes. And he wanted to make it very clear that there were no guarantees, that people understood that. Jim talked a lot about the Wired West project, explained the background of the members of the executive committee and how Warwick's been a part of it for several years. He also talked about the what's called the take rate, which is the percentage of premises in town that has been decided that if we hit that, all towns hit that percentage, then the economic models work. MBI, which is the quasi-state agency that's dispensing the money from the state, has had 4 different consultants look at the numbers and the economic models, and they all have come back and said 40% works. And the money would come back to the town, repaying the debt. Now, that's not to say that there aren't going to be some years that there is going to be a tax increase because it takes a while for the money to come back. But there was a lot of good questions and discussion. The Broadband Committee has set up another informational meeting on Tuesday, March 31st at 6 o'clock here at the Town Hall. We'll have another member of the Wired West Executive Committee present. Anything else, David? You want to chime in?
No, I think you've got it.
It was an excellent and very informative meeting, and for those of you who weren't in attendance, I would strongly recommend you come to the March 31st meeting, because there were so many things that I was not aware of that I learned at that meeting, and both of those people are extremely knowledgeable. So,
There was one other thing that I will mention is Jim is a select board member in Cummington and has been for 25 years. And Cummington has decided to close their elementary school, and because of declining population and the projections of the youth coming along. But his interpretation was that was because there's no high-speed fiber, high-speed internet in Cummington, and that young families didn't want to come to a rural town if they didn't have it. And I know there's been discussion about the Warwick School, and I thought it was an interesting point. Broadband Committee is trying to educate people. It's up to the town to decide, you know. And we do have, John Bradford is the delegate to the Wired West. Their regular meetings, I'm the alternate. We've been going together. It's a lot of information to take in. And the Broadband Committee has been meeting weekly to try and get stuff out to the town. John is going to have a website, and there's also going to be sign-up information at the library.
Thank you.
If we have fiber optics to the town hall and to the two towers, and we have radio communication between the towers and the town hall and the public, what are we missing?
What we're missing is that class of service to respective homes. We do have it to the town hall, we do have it to the school, we do have it to the library, we have it to both towers. We paid for it to one of the towers, and it means really fast internet, really, really low latency, which is the lag time. So a satellite connection has a latency of 700 milliseconds, 7/10 of a second. You can't do voice or remote computing, and you can't do a lot of things in real time. So you're right, it's possible to build off of those connections with wireless. There's winners and losers. The closer you are and the less vegetable environment there is between you and that fiber connected radio, the better your so the difference is whether there can be a high-speed pairing with everybody, or if it's just some who have that caliber of connection.
But the towers connect to everybody now.
They do, but not at the speeds of glass fiber.
I'm sorry?
Not at the speeds of glass fiber.
Well, that's the speed of light, and the towers connect to people's houses by the speed of light, yeah? Same thing?
No.
No.
Well, no. The legacies, the fiber connection, without anything fancy, using 30-year-old technology, the fiber connection will pass 1,000 megs.
Yeah.
The radio system that we initially installed, from one radio on the mountain to one customer with nobody else on it, will pass 4 megs. That's it. That's it. 4 megs versus 1,000. Add another customer, 2 customers are sharing 4 megs. Add 30 customers, which is the case in some of our nodes here on our system, 30 customers are sharing 4 megs.
David, you might be able to answer this question. Can you, is it okay?
Yes.
Can that system you have now be upgraded to handle more? Better,
Yes, and
transmission?
when we started 6 years ago, we spent $56,000. 40 of it we borrowed. In that first year, we collected enough revenue to cover the other money that I spent building the system. At the same time, our customers wrote a check for $500. And so about the first 100 customers collectively invested $50,000 into the system. At this point, between our customers, the new customers only going to pay $100 because we've gotten big enough and have enough cash flow that we're kind of playing the cell phone company game. Free cell phone, sign up for 2 years, and we make it back on you. And yes, there are upgrades. So, and one of the first ones that we just passed on was dual polarity radios at the same radio frequency. It was untenable to come back to 100 people and say, sorry, it's only been a year or 6 months or 3 months for you. We found some better technology and we want to switch. we just say we don't wanna go there. But we also found out that those systems don't work in our environment because they aren't GPS timed. We're really exposed. Our topography is quite favorable to wireless because we don't have a crooked landscape where a tower doesn't hit everybody because there's a lump of land and they're on the wrong side of it, and so you got these people need to come from this tower and these people from that tower. Our topography is such that from 2 towers, we hit 90% of people and 80% of the land. But there's still losers in this, and some of them are sitting here.
Yes, absolutely.
But, so in order, if you look on the town hall roof, there are 2 antennas. And they're using fiber to the town hall. They don't go more than the length of a football field. But they do pass a lot more data because they are smaller radio waves. They have no ability to go through leaves and pine needles and such. They're a line of sight solution.
I'm getting that is, for people that have broadband, and for the ones that can't get it because of the problems there, if they had an antenna, sort of like you did with TVs before, could they get reception from your signal, your broadband signal?
Every one of them has an antenna. We mostly use flat panel antennas, but we also use log periodics. Every one of them has an
to go
antenna.
past, so it would go high enough above the block, but it would be blocking it. That's what I'm.
These radios do communicate from, and we always use what are called connectorized antennas. They also make products where the antenna is built into the product, but they don't work as good. So we specially choose antennas for their shape and their gain, right up to the limits the FCC says we can use for power.
I think what Nick was trying to get at is, if we're talking about broadband, we're talking about Warwick West, and if there's a way to upgrade broadband, where we got the fiber optics to the towers and everything here, and end up having a wireless system in the town like we have now, well, it's not really wireless, but close enough. Why not invest the money there, which would be a lot less? And it would, you've already proven that it would be paid back by how many customers you've got now. Whereas the other way, there's nothing to say you would get your money back. And the cost would be a heck of a lot less.
If this fails, that will be the plan. And it will be a continuous build out over time as new technology, wireless technology comes up, and we come up with some more money and string some more fiber and put up some masts to get it closer. Because the fact of the matter is, if we could put up 40 or 50 masts that were all connected, we could shorten the distance, and we could use wireless technology. But I want to tell you, it's high maintenance. My phone was ringing all weekend because the SAP's starting to run and the radio frequency environment is changing. There's customers who went down this weekend, and it's really bad. I mean, we've got to keep them going, but it's not a static environment. So you send somebody out to go adjust the antenna, change the antenna, change the aim, move it a little bit, get a better signal, and the whole situation's changed again 3 days later. So there's a lot more maintenance of a wireless system.
Particularly with cost analysis, I think, to do that before you invest $1.5 million and then say, oh, it's not gonna work, now we invest it on something you've already had. But
If I personally don't become convinced that this system can pay for it, as opposed to the taxpayers, you won't see me voting for it.
Oh, I expect the taxpayers to pay for it, but
No,
then pay it
the
back.
system, the operation of the Warwick project has not cost the taxpayers a penny, and this Wired West system has got to run the same. It's got to run on the same scenario, or I can't get behind it. We've got a tax rate, that you well know, $20. I like nice round numbers. 1992, the heck with that. It's $20. It can never, under mass law, be higher than 25. And we're talking about $3, potentially $3 in the tax rate. We got a snow and ice hit this winter. We get to $25 a thousand, and we're Springfield. we're in receivership. And we can have all the town meetings we want, but a state receiver will be running this town until things are back to a dull roar. So this has to work as a business, or I can't personally support it, I can't professionally support it. The interesting thing that I came away from at this meeting last Tuesday, because did a bunch of work to make a number of potential customers that Wired West says we have in Warwick, which is way high. And that number was something like 440 something. And we really, in fact, have 330 something. And I still think that's 10 high, but I can't prove it. It's not worth spending too much time. But did that mean that our 40% that we need to sign up just became 50%? Do we really still need 178 customers, whether it's 40% or 50%? And what I was told was no, we don't. And so my next question was, and this was done in the hall afterward, I didn't say this at the meeting. He said, I take the number of customers, 40% times how many we know, times $50 a month, and there's not enough money there to pay the debt service. In year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 17, there's not enough money to pay the debt service. How do you operate a network? The answer is, it takes 40% of the system, and essentially other towns would subsidize Warwick, because they've got higher population densities and better business cases. So Warwick on a standalone for this project, probably, seat of my pants is 65, 70%. We've got 52, 54 in this, on a standalone, but within the system. It also tells me that some towns saying no will actually make the business model stronger. And there are some towns that have higher population density and more population, more customers per mile of fiber strung, who are essentially subsidizing others.
Okay. I agree with you, but you're going on the assumption that everybody on broadband now would be involved with the Wired West. And I talked to quite a few people that they would just rather keep their broadband. They don't want higher speeds. Not that they're perfectly happy with that, and I know you have that in the back of your head as well. It's viable to run both. Although I disagree with using that money to help pay the Wired West debt. Oh, you're right here on that. So, I mean, that's why I think there should be a lot more discussion on this before you, because you got a system that's working.
Not for everyone.
Got another meeting at the end of the month.
Let's say they could show us that they could get 40% now. How can they show us that they will be able to get 40% 10 years from now? When there may have been a wireless technology arrived at that can beat out in terms of cost or whatever, optical cable, optical fiber. And they have to be able to do that.
No, you may be right that there is, but our market is so unappealing that we had to do our own wireless system. We have a cell tower with nothing on it but Warwick broadband equipment. And despite my best efforts for a number of years, it still does not have any cellular. So sometimes the technologies exist, but don't get deployed in some areas because there's more money to be made being the sixth operator of this service in a wealthier, more population dense community than there is for one to say, I'm coming to Warwick. So this is our next self-help option, and we need to look at it very critically, but I hate to see anybody dismiss it out of hand, because it's got a lot of credibility, I think.
Well, if they lose the ability to get 40%, then the cost of the thing comes back on the taxpayers, whether that's in anything or not.
Well,
And they could easily lose their ability to get 40% at some time in the future because of improved technology in some other area.
Yes, Tom?
I can't speak to improved technology. I do know that fiber optic cable is extremely fast. It's been out there for, Jim mentioned that there are places where their fiber optic cables are still being used that have been there for 45 years. It's a huge super information highway. It's possible that, you know, there are more powerful wireless things that are coming down the pike. But, what am I trying to say? I lost my thread.
The same argument that could have been used against the interstate highway system, that automobiles are just a phase and new technology is going to move us beyond that and we don't need roads, says the buggy whip salesman. So, you know, it's hard to predict the future, but in terms of future-proof things, fiber feels like it's got a better case to make than most technology.
Yes.
You're referring to a cell tower? What is this gonna do for our cell service? Is this gonna help our cell service? Seeing we have a cell tower?
It wouldn't have, the only way it would help your cell service is that with a fiber internet connection.
Right, so you do it through the computer.
You could go to your provider, Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and say, sell me or give me a microcell and I'll plug it in and my handset will talk to it. This is but a part.
Right,
You know,
all right, so it doesn't help that. Why do we have a cell tower without a cell service?
Because in the late 1990s, the tech economy was pretty cranked up and there were investors who thought they could speculate on building towers. And somebody did, and their financial situation flushed, and another company bought it as a bank-owned or distressed property, and has never been able to get anybody, any carrier, to locate on it.
We have two different places where you say we can get 90% coverage. Is it true that if we have those two places set up for cell towers, we get 90% cell service? And why aren't we pursuing that?
The property values here are having a hard time because there is no cell service.
There's no cell service, that's the main thing, that's a basic communication.
Would the state
Is a
police
cell-
let you put one in their town?
Why do we need some luxury thing when we don't have basic services? Right now, I'm
My
thinking of
question
saying,
is, for all the money that's going into this wire west, we have HughesNet, I've never used the whole amount of bandwidth that I'm allowed, I paid $75 a month. There's probably nobody that uses the internet more than me in this town to run a whole business there. I have never had an outage on that HughesNet. They approached me and gave me twice the bandwidth and reduced my bill by 30. I run complete phone service through HughesNet. That's why I don't understand why there's unreachable houses who can't be reached from the sky with HughesNet for $72 a month.
we run a business with HughesNet. Why do we have to go so fast here if there's no other businesses?
And I mean, I enter Visa cards all day long on HughesNet because there is no cell service. The other thing is, you go into Leverett, those wires are touching the ground. And I mean, do we not have a scenic law, bylaw, whatever you want to call it, that I personally don't want to drive down our pretty streets and see these huge cables that are 2 feet off the ground. Drove from Wendell to Amherst every day. Those wires are 2 feet off the ground and they're an eyesore. So whose responsibility is it to maintain those wires?
Like having winter like we just had, where all
They're
the
touching the
wires
ground.
are all gone. And he has an important point, this gentleman here, about if we lose off an amount of people that are on it, all of a sudden our taxes go up because we can't foot the bill from the customers that we have. The customers tend to turn to be the taxpayers who don't want this. They end up being the forced customers, in my opinion, on this.
The other thing that was brought to my attention was in our case where we have a 1,200-foot driveway, they're only going to cover 125 feet running that line up that driveway. Is that true?
I heard 300.
300 is
So
the
then
current
where does
policy.
the rest of the money running up that driveway come from? My pocket?
isn't there a bylaw, you only, if you build a house in Warwick now, you have to be 500 feet from the road, so they're stuck with that bill right off the bat?
New one on me.
Now you're 300 feet across the
300?
front.
Okay.
Now, whose responsibility is it to maintain that line past that 100 and something feet, or how many feet that they're gonna cover?
You mean up to the house, or?
Yeah.
Yep, because you gotta get it to my house, I'm 1,200 feet back in there.
Well, the network operator is gonna maintain the wires and the line, and that would be hired by Wired West.
That's even during a storm?
Yep,
Yeah, okay.
yep,
And they install it.
right.
How many feet?
Well, the current policy is 300 feet. It is actually under review by Wired West because there's a number of people that feel like if all the taxpayers are supporting this, all they should all get the benefit of it. And so longer driveways should be covered. But the problem is, will it work financially to do it? And one idea that's been floated by, that Jim Draw mentioned the other night was that it could be, the longer driveways could be, there could be financing, that you'd pay a little extra a month to help pay for it.
Yeah, perhaps I should come to the meeting when the people come and give us a presentation,
Yep.
you know, but.
Yeah, we'd had a very well-attended meeting and like to have more people and bring all your questions. There was a mailing that went out to residents. It has a email address you can send questions to. I don't have all the answers, but I'm trying to get them, and appreciate your concern.
I want to ask a question. You're talking about putting wires in?
Yes, sir.
What?
One person at a time speaking, please.
Who's speaking?
Two people were,
I didn't ask for permission, so we'll let him have it.
yes, go ahead.
I just want to know, I'm asking a question. You want to put wires in? Is this-
Correct. Fiber optic cable.
For what reason? With all the technology we have in this world, you want to put wires in?
Yes, fiber optic cable is not like copper cable that current utilities use.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like he's talking about with a cell phone. You've got no wires with a cell phone. Why do you need to put wires in?
Because it can carry much more data than you can do on wireless.
Is this the system that after you pay for it and pay for it and pay for it and pay for it, you don't own it? Is this what you were talking about the last one of the meetings?
The town would,
Keep paying and paying and paying?
Yep. 20 years back.
the town would own an undivided interest in the network as a whole, is the way it's being set up. So that if, for example, Wired West were to fail, and we have these wires all over this town and 31 other towns, I gotta believe that there's some other operator that would come in and operate such a network, you know?
Has anybody else seen the wires in
I
Ludlow?
don't,
No.
This is not crosstalk, it's no questions, please.
Okay, has anybody seen the wires in Leverett besides
No, I
me? Then we probably should figure out a way for everybody to see what these things look like. Cause it ain't pretty.
one quick thing. If it all failed and everything, and we're doing it basically on a non-profit basis, it didn't work, nobody's gonna come in and pick up the wires to think that they can make a profit on it. So if it fails, it fails. And just our money is at risk as taxpayers.
I have 1,000,001 questions about this, as you know, and we certainly could take up the full evening on it, but probably it's better to go to the next public meeting on wireless and hash out everything we can there than to try to hash it out here, and they are both. So perhaps you should, as chair's prerogative, rule that all of this should be put over to the public meeting on the 31st.
I agree with that. don't have all the answers, I certainly don't. And you get if you come to that meeting, you get a chance to ask people who really understand it and know the latest developments. And I suggest that you come on March 31st at 6 o'clock. Yes, John?
Oh, I was just gonna ask you what time you mean, is it posted?
It isn't yet.
It isn't posted. I just got confirmation from the representative this afternoon, so.
6 P.M.
Yeah, so you can post it in a box and everybody will be able to read it.
Okay, moving right along. Reply regarding the tech school capital district wide ballot question.
I wanted to take this up with Rosa as town clerk in the room. The tech school's gonna have a capital item for its member towns to consider. And the tech school's charter, I don't know, says that the way these questions are decided is by a ballot question held on the same day, all the towns. So they're asking 3 questions, and we print our own ballots, and I'm hoping that our reply can be, if Rosa can go along with this as town clerk, that we're easy, we can do this on whatever day works for the rest of the member towns, because they have to find a date that works for every member town. And I think they had reached out directly to the, so most towns send their ballots out to a printer and need a lead time. Since I've been here, if it wasn't a state election, we print our own ballots in-house, so we can handle the ballots. And I think one town told them they needed 51 days notice to hold an election. I think the legal requirement is 14 on a special election and 7 on a
That's the
regular.
warrant posting. That's the amount of time to post a warrant. I don't know about how many days.
The little guy
Well,
with
that's
the shorts.
like
Yes,
kind
I
of
know, I
huge.
can ask Harry Petrucci tomorrow. He's the election specialist.
So they're proposing
And
possible
it'll cost
dates.
us at least $600 in workers. That was one of your questions, how much time?
Okay.
It costs at least 600, and I don't know what's in our budget. Because we budgeted, or Jeanette
Oh, I'm
budgeted
sorry,
for 3
they pay
elections.
for, I failed to mention,
Oh.
they pay for all the election expenses.
Well, that's good, then
So
we don't have to
we're
pay for
each-
it, but, okay, then you would have to tell them at least $600.
$600,
That's just workers.
we print the ballots, and we can accommodate any of these days. Sound good?
As long as they've mentioned that statewide conference, so if anything would happen after that. So that's okay, I guess. I mean, none of the dates mean anything particular to me, other than I have to make sure that I have people in, poll workers and constables that will be able to be there.
Okay, I think I can take it from here.
Police department.
How are you? Quick report, I've submitted the budget request for this year. I think we did, I don't know if you did that.
Could you stand so you can be heard?
Okay. Submitted the budget request for the fiscal year 16. Gave it to David. Should be in your packet there. Just a quick update on some of the calls. From beginning of this fiscal year, which would be July 1st till December 31st, we've answered 321 calls. Give you a little perspective on that. We've answered 447 calls, excuse me, all of last year. Looks like we're on track to be well over 600 calls this year. Other than that, I believe there was something on here, something about details. I wasn't here. I wasn't on the agenda last meeting. I guess there were some questions regarding police details.
Mr. Rogerio?
Is the police vehicle used to do details outside of town?
Not at all.
So neither one of our vehicles go out of town?
They do go out of town. They go out for gas, they go out for maintenance, they go out for training, but they don't go out for
But
police
not to
detail.
work?
No, not at all.
And
They
you
go
don't-
out, let me rephrase that. They will go on mutual aid calls.
I understand, okay. Was,
Are these questions that you want him to address to you, or?
To you.
Okay.
Yeah. So one of the questions that Larry brought up last week was, so when you're doing a detail on 78 for National Grid, and that vehicle's running, and the lights are on and whatnot, the town doesn't get no money for that. But we're using it, you're getting paid the money for it, and you're using it, money that's appropriated from our budget for the gas.
Okay, that's a statement, sir. What's the question?
That was the question.
It's-
Are you using the money, or do you pay for the gas yourself?
No,
You don't? No, what? You
I'm
do
sorry.
pay for the gas, or you don't? What I'm saying is, it's a private detail, right?
no, it's a police detail.
But you're getting, okay, it's a police detail. Is there a difference between a private detail?
We don't do private details.
Okay, so it's a police detail, you
Yes.
get paid $40 an hour,
$42 an hour is what
And it-
what the officer gets.
and
The
it comes to
town,
the town.
the town, maybe you're misunderstanding
Well,
what
I'd
the
like
detail
that
is.
information.
A police detail, let's take for example, National Grid, you brought that up. They call the police department, they request a police officer. The police officer is dispatched with a cruiser because they're hiring a police officer. The police officer has to act as a police officer should the need arise. They're paid, the officer gets $42 an hour, the town gets 10% of that. So it's a total of $46.20, I guess, is what the town bills, okay? That 10%, I have no idea where it goes. It doesn't go back to the police department.
So, getting back to the question, so you're getting the $40,
42,
42.
yeah.
And you're using the town's gas for that detail, running the car. That gas that was appropriated in the budget for you to do your police work in town.
Right.
But that's a detail work, that's,
It's,
I
okay, I
fail
can
to
understand
see-
I can understand your confusion. Let me put it this way. That 10% has brought back to the town as of today, $4,100 and some change, $4,100 and change. My entire police gasoline budget is $3,900. So,
So, in other words, $3,900 for gas?
is what the police department budget was last year. I can give you the exact figure.
So it should be about,
$3,985, so $4,000.
so that should be reasonably 12 miles a gallon, something like 20,000 miles a year. In a town this small, it seems like a large budget. I'm not picking on you or anything, I'm just saying, these finances for this police department is just way out of whack.
Well, I would say this, okay? I would welcome any discussion. I'm very surprised to hear that, because nobody's approached me as the department head. Not one person has approached me and with any questions, comments, concerns about my budget, okay? And I'd be more than happy to sit down with any board, any private citizen, any group of people to discuss what they consider they want, and what I consider the needs of the town to be. I can't present a budget based on what I think people are gonna vote for. I have to, as department head, I have to present the budget that I believe this town needs and requires and is used to the service that it receives, okay? Anybody can stand up at town meeting and that's what it's there for, and make an amendment, so.
I don't want to be the only one to talk here, because I did have some other questions, and I'd rather see if someone else was interested, and if not, then I would ask you a few more,
Well,
the things that concern me.
that's actually up to the chair, so. I mean, I'm here to answer questions, but,
I would just like to say that 10% admin fee that does not go back to the department, goes to the town's general fund. And eventually becomes available for appropriation as free cash.
And this might be a good time to restate the procedure for complaints. If you have a problem with any department, you should go to the department head. If with the police, you go to the chief. If you have a problem with highway, you go to the highway superintendent and so forth. Because they know the intricacies of their operations. We don't know all the details.
That's what I'm doing now.
Yeah,
Can I continue?
go ahead.
Because I did have another question.
Go ahead.
Just by going through some of your line items that you had on your budget, you had, let's see, I won't quote you now, but you had money for outside instructors. What is that?
They're outside instructors for the department. All police officers, regardless of where they live, have to meet minimum standards, okay? It's about 80 hours per man per year. Okay, we have 5
So
years.
that's where that goes.
Well, that's where, and it doesn't cover it all, believe me.
All right. The other thing was, community policing, you had a budget, it's not in this year's budget.
It wasn't in last year's
It
budget.
wasn't in last year, but the previous 2 years you had, what was it, $2,000 each? What was that used for?
Exactly what it says, community caretaking projects.
For instance?
Just some added patrols is basically what it was. And what we did is, when discussion with the finance committee and the select board, we took that out of community policing and put it into the actual wage budget. So it was for extra patrols, it was for just extra patrols is what we were doing at the time.
Extra.
We had new cruisers, new vehicles, and the maintenance budget went up from $700 to $2,700,
Mhm.
and this is with new vehicles.
We had one new vehicle at the
All
time.
right, one new vehicle. But $2,700 for maintenance went for years, it was $700, and everything worked out fine. Uniforms and equipment, was it this year, $1,200? But you had $2,200 for last year?
Mhm.
For uniforms and equipment, it was. It was
You know, I'd be very willing to sit down and go over this line item with line items with you.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, all these people are here, it's their dollars. So it's not just me. I just-
Well, the thing is too,
Like,
sir,
you
that,
know,
I really didn't come prepared to discuss this. This wasn't on the agenda. What normally happens, okay, is, I will sit down with the finance committee, I will sit down with the select board. Those are public meetings, and that's when these
I
issues
understand
get
that.
hashed back and forth.
Unfortunately, these people do not get all that information because it isn't passed around town quite adequately at all. They don't even get the warrant before they have to show up and vote on it.
Okay, that,
So, and that's not true,
Right.
and none of this is your fault. I'm just saying, these are dollars. We're speaking dollars being spent for items that for years, you can say it was underfunded and everything else.
well, I guess my question would be, sir, that if the budget was $21,880 in 1 year, why is it now $59,000?
That's exactly what my question is, all
Okay.
these questions are getting.
Okay, that's the first question that we need to answer, okay? The next question is, what do you want from your police department? The next question after that is, when you say that, you can say it was underfunded or it wasn't adequately, funded for this, where was the difference being made up? Okay? And most of it was being made up at the time through volunteerism. Okay? We don't have volunteer policing in this town anymore. It's unsustainable. At times, it can be a liability. And these guys have put in more than enough hours on their own dime. And basically, what I told the select board and the finance committee last year was that we have come to the point where it's like the person, I believe the analogy I use is the person using a credit card to pay another credit card to pay another credit card. Sooner or later, that circle has to close. And unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately, because I'm a resident in town, my tax bill went up 10% of my assessed value, okay? I don't know where I'm gonna come up with that. Okay, I'm in the same boat. I don't live out of town. These numbers impact me too.
So are we
So-
paying for a full-time police chief?
No,
Are we paying for full-time police officers?
no.
How many hours do they do?
We have
And when
43
are
hours,
they
we have 43 hours of patrol every week.
And when are they available? I know they used to be on a Saturday or Sunday, it was available for a couple of hours. We don't even know.
You pick up the phone and you
What
call and
jobs?
you make an
Yeah.
appointment. The reason being is because we have to utilize our resources in the most advantageous way possible. And I decided that spending 3 hours at the office every Sunday could take away 3 hours of patrol time that might be needed somewhere else. The other thing too is, with our call volume going up, depending on what some of the stuff is, some of this is behind the scenes. We have a court case going on now that's from last November that we're still in pretrial, okay? This is a guy that committed several felonies. So there were two officers involved, myself and Officer Stewart, and we're still in pretrial. We haven't even gone to trial yet on this. They're still asking for discovery and stuff. So this stuff eats up a lot of our time. So, and the other thing, when you want to roll the police budget back to $22,000, obviously you've come up with a number, and obviously there's a basis for that number. Please, come sit in my office, we'll go to have coffee, wherever. Bring as many people as you want, and we'll sit down and we'll discuss the basis of these numbers.
But I understand what you're saying, and I will put a list together for you, but. from
No,
what I'm-
absolutely.
from
Let's
what I'm
sit down
getting
and
from
talk
you
about
right now
I'm sorry?
is, I understand from you right now, you're justifying all these numbers, so it doesn't look like you're gonna cut back on them, like a $4,000 gas budget or $900 to belong to policemen's
Well, actually, the budget that I submitted,
associations. $3,900 for the, which was in last year's, I know you cut it this year, for gas. But $975 to belong to a police association, different police associations and everything.
okay,
But I ran a police log from 2011 and one from 2014, and there was no difference in the two of them, except we're paying for a lot more money. And
all I can say,
we
sir,
haven't got one since the first of the year, your police logs, and you've got $16.50 for reporting supplies, but I haven't found one in the website since 2014, March.
$16.50 for what?
Might be for something else, but it says for
That's a-
reporting
that's a-
supplies,
that's-
it's $16.50.
TriTech software license, that's a license for a records management system.
It's a license for record. Okay. All right, but we haven't got a report as to what the police department's actually doing since March of 2014.
That is actually my fault. What had happened was I used to prepare that at home, again, on my own dime. It takes about 4 hours a month to prepare that.
This is.
Sir, please.
I'm sorry.
You wanted an explanation, I'd be more than happy to give it to you. My computer crapped out at the house, that's the one I was using, and I just dropped the ball on it. Actually, I have January's and February's ready to go in this month's newsletter. But again, a lot of this stuff that you've received, that we as a town have received, not just from the police department, from the rec committee, from cemetery, from, people that serve on certain boards, it's, at some point in time, there has to be a reckoning. And unfortunately, I happen to be the one on the hot seat for the police department, okay? I can't be the final arbiter, that's town meeting. When you stand up and make the amendment to go back to $22,000, all I would ask is that you have the knowledge and my input on exactly where this is gonna go, okay? Like I said, I was very disheartened to hear that this petitions were nobody ever came up to me and said, hey, listen, we think you're out of range, we think you're out of your mind, we think you should be replaced. Not one person.
I don't think it's
you know.
Up to someone to ask, first of all, we didn't know what you were gonna ask for, all right? Secondly, we don't get enough people to show up, including me, when it's being presented to the finance board. All right, so I don't think it's right to say, we should ask you ahead of time what you're gonna decide to do. After we find out the facts, we have the right to ask. Covington has a police department of a budget of only $12,000. They're a town with 100 more people than us. This should be a volunteer, it should be a part-time police department. They pay their department by detail, basically, because there's enough work for them to do. Now, it seems to me that's what happens here as well, in the way it has already been, always been. And you tell me if I'm wrong. But I don't see how you should be making detail work, paying a salary, and then hit us so hard with these taxes and everything else that you need. All this small stuff that doesn't mean anything. Primarily, we need, this is my opinion, if anyone disagrees, just say so. We need a police chief for someone to get a gun permit, to file, get a report on a break-in, so that they can file an insurance form, simple things like that. There's never anyone available, well, I can't say that because I don't have proof of that, but I don't believe they're gonna ever prevent anything except maybe motor vehicle things. So, and that's what small towns have the police chief for. I just think we can't act like we're a big city and paying all this money for a police department that should be just a small town police department, just to be there first, you know, basically on an on-call basis.
The police department also does emergency calls.
I understand that. I'd rather give money to the fire department, more of them, and they have all the equipment. When an accident happens, the police comes out, the fire department, because it's the fire department that does the rescue work and stuff like that. I understand what you're saying, you know. I'm just saying for this size town. I'm sorry I could have been police stuff.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
I got one for Dave. Every time you dispatch the cruiser with yourself or another person, is that, now you were talking about the log, is that logged whether it's a general, a call or general cruising around looking for problems or whatever? Or is that two different things? Do you log everything that when you're going out? I think that's what he was asking too. Do you log when you're out in a cruiser, do you log that in some sort of log that we can all see for transparency?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a log that we can look up? Because I didn't find anything.
We used to have it online.
Right.
We used to have it, and what happened is, I think he said March 14th.
Right, is that
At the time, my computer at the house went down.
Right.
And I didn't replace it, I wasn't doing it here. I'll make sure it starts getting done again.
Is that a lock? Do you have to do that?
No, I
just
don't.
wondered. Okay.
It has to be available if you request it,
Okay.
okay?
Maybe
It's a
that'll
public
answer a lot of questions of what you're doing and keep his mind at ease of what you're doing during.
Well, I mean, he's used 2 different years and he's, you know, I mean, I can't speak for him, you heard what he said.
Yeah, right.
You know, so, I mean, I'll just make sure it's done and you can make up your own.
Right.
I have 3 things to say about this. One is slightly off topic. It is that I've seen your proposed budget for the next year, and you cut roughly 10%. You did a very nice job at it. You cut out things that could be cut out without losing services, and I want to compliment you for that.
Thank you.
Second, when your increases came up at the last town meeting, it seemed to me they were good ideas, but they were a little out of place given that everybody else was tightening their belts. And then says to me, I say to myself, but it's up to the town meeting. If they want to do major increases for the fire department, that's their right. And we've been there and done it. And you depended on the word of the town, and you made increases, and you hired staff and you set up programs, and now you have it taken away from you because they didn't think of it before? It doesn't make sense. And number 3, I have some personal experience with the emergency details. I've called 911, over the last couple of years I've called 911 twice. And I've also got this little button on my wrist which, if I press it, goes to a private company which takes emergency calls. And the result of the 911 calls is that what you get within 5 minutes is 4 volunteers from the fire department. 4 volunteers within 5 minutes in this town, dependably. It's incredible. Plus, you got the police chief. And I really find that kind of response incredible, because you can't get that fast a response in the cities to a 911 call, but you can get it in Warwick, and I don't think we should give it up. I think we should give them the hours that they need to be prepared to do things like that. With the little button, the button radios a private company and says there's an emergency out there. It doesn't say what, because the button doesn't say anything except it's an emergency. And they call my home if the if there's no answer on the phone, as for instance because I can't reach the phone or because I'm outside, they call the police chief. Gotta go investigate what's going on there. And the police chief comes out. And that, again, is within 5 minutes, dependably. I'm glad they're there, and I wouldn't want to see their budget cut by 2/3. So that's all I've got to say.
Yes,
I just got one last question, sir. When are we going to get the other vehicles leaded with Warwick Police on it?
Never.
Why?
For one thing, kind of a weird story, but the company we bought that from was 11 months late delivering it. They never to this day have returned a call about lettering, graphics wise. And state law prohibits transporting minors that are under arrest in a marked vehicle.
okay, we need to set dates to open and close the annual town meeting.
I would suggest today, close it 2 weeks from today.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Because it's more than just fair.
By the way, is Patricia here?
No, she isn't. We have a support letter for the National Disaster Resilience Competition, HUD. And I looked at that,
Thank you very much. I made it up myself. This relates to Hurricane Irene, the bear, many of our neighbors were not. The state executive office of Energy and Environmental Affairs is applying to HUD. This grant for support. So the board is amenable to allow Don to sign this. Would be the 30th. Yeah, this is on.
We need a motion.
Yes.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
That's fine.
All in favor?
That's so moved.
To authorize, to sign the support letter.
Any on April 19th, actually 19th, Thursday at 5 p.m.
That's also known as this Thursday.
Yeah. So, that's just a statement.
Well, I'd like the board to decide who's gonna go. I will be at that meeting. I would rather wear my school committee hat. And last year at this same meeting, the entire board turned out. I'm not sure that's necessary. But the other piece besides attending the meeting is this board should decide in advance what the answer to the question is, which is for the purpose to discuss the town's funding capacity relative to the budget. And so we really need to say something about our school assessment and where the select board is comfortable. Last year we said 2.5% assessment increase.
And an increase question.
Well, yes.
I recommend a level funded budget.
A level funded budget or a level funded assessment? The reason I say that is that a level funded budget could end up being a assessment increase of 5%, depending on what happens to state aid, because 55% of our education costs are derived from tax support, and the rest is grants, tuition, and school choice. School choice is capped at 5,000. Grants are minimal. The picture for tuition, which is largely from Vernon, Vermont, whose principal industry is closing down, is questioned, and the state budget is $1 billion in the hole, so that the chance of the state tracking our local contributions has not been good. So that's why a 2% increase in the school's budget could translate into being a 4.5% increase in the town's assessment.
I would go to the meeting on Thursday.
I've been wondering about whether we should ask for a level funded or assessment, or whether we should ask for a level funded assessment plus what would be the equivalent of allowing the employees to have a 1.5% cost of living increase, because if there is a way of signaling the school board, that we are done with increasing the budget way high every year, that's just done. 2, we support the employees. If there's a way to do that, it'd be nice, and that's why I'm thinking of.
Are you talking the school employees or the town employees?
I'm sorry?
Are you talking the school employees or the town employees?
You know, that's interesting. I'm talking to schools employees, but if we're going to end up level funding our own employees, then I wouldn't feel so bad as making it simply level funded.
Well, Madam Chairman,
Assessment.
if I may, we are in year 3 of a labor contract, and that's where the wage rates are set, and I believe that there's two steps. There's employees are, based on longevity, either get 3% increase or 3.5% increase on the steps. And then on top of that, the cost of living increases. So that, I believe we're looking at something like 6 to 6.5%. These are collective bargaining agreements, and we can't abrogate them. They are, and it's 80% of the school budget. And I have the pleasure of sitting on the negotiations committee with Martha right now, and we're dealing with these things, and they'll line us up and shoot us if we say anything to violate the executive sessions. But town meeting, selectmen, town administrators have nothing to say about the past, and it's the school committee and the union that will be eventually acting on the new collective bargaining. The problem that I see with respect to trying to say we've got to slow this growth down is that absent the new contract, the terms of the old contract hold. So there's no stepping backwards from what's already out there. And it dismays me, but what happens in the end is the union eats their young. They remember a few years ago when Starrett's had cut back hours and we were all lucky to keep our jobs. And that's not the approach that the union takes. They look for gains in benefits and gains in wages and gains for longevity, and they will take layoffs. If we cut budgets, if we cut assessments, we will be trimming the youngest and lowest paid teachers on the staff. And that's just the shape of things. And I would suggest you call on Martha, because she's been at this longer than I have.
Yeah, okay, I was on negotiations 3 years ago when we did the teachers' budget. We negotiate with the teachers' union, and then we negotiate with the staff. We met, I know at the last meeting, there were a lot of questions about whether the school committee members are serious about saving money. Believe me, we're serious about saving money. We met 20 times over a period of 15 months with the teachers union. And then after that, we do all of the other. I mean, I've been to hundreds of meetings in the last 6 years. We don't know, as David said, it's in executive session. We don't know how it's going to come out. There's every year, every time there's bargaining, it's a guessing game at this point in time. They don't know who's going to retire. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes the people retiring are on the higher step. We are all bargaining in good faith, and the teachers are as well. We are really trying to work it out. But as far as going backwards, I can't imagine that would happen. I'm just going to say, having been a teacher myself, there's not going to be a step backwards. But we're really working at it. And I guess what I'm disturbed about from the February 17th meeting is the concept that the school committee is just, we're just there saying, oh, yep, everybody can have everything. And, we have a 43-page budget, proposed budget. But remember, this is very, very preliminary. And it's the highest it can be. I know last year, when I came to the meeting in July, I was told that none of you even saw this. None of the select board, and I don't think the finance committee either, had this in their hands. So we've met 3 times. We had a public hearing. And since I'm the chairman of the budget committee, I chaired the meeting. And I didn't rush it through, as I was accused of doing. We went through every single budget for the 4 elementary schools, the high school, special education, and so forth. We went through it. I asked for questions. And I was kind of surprised that nobody was there except David and I, of course, because we're on the school committee. But, so I'm really hoping that it would be good if you both could come. And this is up 2.39. This is proposed. If history is any factor, it will go down. It does almost every year. And hopefully, I'd like to see both of you come to the meeting on Thursday, because it's a good time to ask questions. And the budget hearing was a very good time to ask questions. Every principal, just so people will know, every principal stands up and defends their budget. Some of them have gone up 2%, special education's gone down 4%. The whole thing, when all is said and done, has gone up 2.39. But, like David said, we're just starting with negotiations. We can't say anything about what's going on. We're all, anybody who's ever negotiated knows it's a long process, a very delicate process. And we're all respecting each other, and we're trying to work it out best. But I'm just going to say I'm a little disheartened by the antagonism between the town and the district, because I really think people have put a lot of effort into this budget. We know, the principals know, Dale Dora knows, the school committee. I've worked with these people for 6 years. They're serious, thoughtful, informed people. And believe me, we know that taxpayers don't want to go. We're in the same situation a lot of towns are in with declining enrollment. And we need to work together to solve these problems. I think some of the language used at the meeting was demolish the district. I don't know, to me that's not helpful. I hope we can work together, because we don't want our taxes to go up. I mean, last year I came and I made an amendment. I put the actual figure that was supposed to be on the warrant, because it was the requested amount. And then that was, I think it was 49,000 difference. It was reduced in August by 9,500. So it went up, the assessment went up. That would leave it at what? A difference of $40,000. So it's not all the schools, because 40,000 doesn't account for $1.75 in the tax rate going up.
To the defense of the town, we have the feeling that we are not listened to.
I know you've said that. I know you said that in July, but I personally have not seen that happening. And I know what you're saying about last year. I know that that's the way you feel, and I can't sit here and say, well, the way you feel is not real, because that's the way you feel. And you're a reasonable person, and I'm sure you have a reason for that. I haven't seen that from my end of things.
Well, we questioned the technology budget. David and John Bradford did a substantial amount of work in trying to lower the cost. And everyone sat there very nicely, and in the end, nothing.
Well, I know, but now that I've met the technology people, I mean, I'm not a technology person, so I don't have any opinion of whether David's ideas were better or the technology people. But the school does have 2 technology people who are working on it. And of course, we all understand that because of Common Core and because of the park exams, that it had to be upgraded. It wasn't just like, oh, let's get some nice fancy equipment for the kids to use. I mean, it's a requirement by the state. We had to have that equipment. So I can't really comment on that. I know that you feel that happened, and I'm sorry that you feel that way. I wasn't involved with the technology, so I don't know. And I know where you're coming from, and I know where I'm coming from, and I have a different perspective. I've worked with the administration, the principals, I know them now. I didn't when I first joined, I didn't know anything about it. It's taken me 5 years to feel like I'm beginning to really understand it. But there's still a lot I don't know. But I just would encourage people, if you see fat in here, it's 43 pages, where's the fat? I mean, we want to know. If you see something you think, well, I don't know why they're charging that much for it, let us know. I mean, we're there. We met 3 times. We had a budget hearing.
Do you agree with David's suggestion, estimate, whatever you call it, that we might be expecting at this point a 6% increase in assessment from the...
No, I wouldn't expect that at all.
What would you expect?
FY15, I really don't know. We don't know. I imagine that you'll find out on Thursday some of the state figures, because wasn't it March 4th that the governor had to have some of the Chapter 70?
$20 a student, yeah. 1,000 students, $20.
But we don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
What would you
So
say?
but I can't say at all what the assessment would be at this point, because we don't have any of the information.
Well,
Would you think,
do you understand what...
what would you
I'm
say
sorry.
the multiplier is between a budget increase of X percent translating to a assessment increase of a greater percent? I think that was the root of Nick's question, and mine is that it's slightly less than twice, because 55% is taxes. So if the budget goes up 2%, the assessment basically goes up 4%.
Last year, the budget went up 3.29. What did the assessment end up going up?
.6.
I don't have all those figures from last year.
Given that it all hits the town, it's whatever the budget percentage is, the assessment increase is always more. We agree on that?
Yes. The assessment went up from I have it here actually. But I don't have anything to figure out the math. But I can tell you exactly what it went up, because okay, PVRS assessment. You have a machine there you can figure this out on. The FY14 appropriated was $685,787. The FY15 requested let me see, it was 752, and then it was reduced by 9,000. Wait a minute, 752, 594, 9,500.
So 685 to 740.
So it was 743,094. So what percentage would that be?
685 to 743, which is essentially 60,000, is it not?
We're doing it the old-fashioned way. 58.
60,000.
It's like 8.5% to me.
What is it?
8.5%.
8.5%? Really? From 688 to, wait, that can't be. It's a $58,000 difference.
Yeah, and 58,000 is damn near 10% of 68, 680 something.
Well,
Anyhow, that's just the broad
Anyhow.
brushstrokes. Could I make a couple other points? I believe at the next school committee, full committee, my request that the school engage in a long-range or strategic plan to look at how it is sustainable, to look at fundamental matters of how we're delivering services. I think that's going to get a second look. And that feels like an effort to demolish the district, because I talk about things like closing our elementary school, which has 38 kids more in it from pre-K through 6th grade. But it's just recognition of the fact that we can't always go back and do business in the same way. And we can look at alternatives. We don't want our taxes to go up, but the majority of our tax dollars go to schools and roads, and we either find new ways of doing things, or our taxes do go up. The wage scales and benefit levels are the school committee's voted decisions. They're not the select boards, and they're not the towns, they're the school. The budget is the school committees. It's not the towns, it's not the selectmen, it's not the finance committees. The budget is the school committee. The town meeting votes the assessment. It raises dollar amount. It can go to meetings and contribute and be heard. The decisions on the budget and the decisions on the wage contracts are the school committees. And the town meetings, linkage, leverage, whatever you want to call it, is simply on the dollars and simply on the gross dollars. And in fact, the town, and it's a 3 out of 4 towns vote it, and if 3 out of 4 towns vote an assessment, the other town has got to come up with the money. They're going to have to call a town meeting, and it's required to come up with the money. So that polity is what contributes to some of the frustration, because those are the roles.
I think, hearing all this, that your statement that we go to them and say our position is a no increase assessment is appropriate, because if they increased our assessment 8% last year, it's not sustainable to do half of that. And therefore, it's not sustainable even to give us a fixed no increase assessment, because that's 4% a year, which is still unsustainable. And therefore, I think that's what we have to go to them with. And I think the message should be that we're going to make serious efforts to have the town vote no on the budget if it is an increased assessment. That comes into my item on the agenda, which is someplace here. It's down the road, actually the next item on the agenda. That's number one. Number two is, there's 20 people in this room out there. And I think that you're sitting in this room tells us a message that we gotta be serious about taxes. And if you sat in the PBRS committee meeting room, it's a public meeting, and did the same thing, it would be very helpful. If you could attend that meeting at 6 p.m. on Thursday,
No, it's at 5.
5 p.m. on Thursday, sorry. So I'd like to see a turnout of the public.
Not here?
Not here, no.
Second Street.
It's in Northfield?
Yeah, and this 5 PM meeting next Thursday is a meeting that the superintendent called with representatives from each of the 4 town select boards to hear about what the towns feel they can afford.
Well, I think it would be a very good thing if taxpayers from this town showed up at that meeting and said it's really right, we can't afford any more.
If you've only got one night to go out, I'd rather see you at the full school committee meeting than that meeting, which is the following Thursday.
Could you do both, or could you only do one?
Sir, did you have a question?
No, the answer was in a different round.
Anything else?
Should we make that a motion? I think we should make a motion that the select board takes to the school committee the position that no increase in assessment is the appropriate vote of the committee, and if we do not receive that we will be asking our voters to say no to the budget.
Second.
Any other discussion, you said?
Yes, any other discussion? Yes.
No, I just wanted to comment on that last motion. I think what you mean is this year you'll have the requested amount, and then you'll have whatever amount the select board and the finance committee decide on for the assessment, and then the voters can choose. Is that what you mean?
But moderator, I don't think that's what you mean. I think
But-
what you mean is that the select board is going to a meeting Thursday night to tell the administration and the budget committee that they don't want to see the assessment go up. They want
Yeah, I
to
understood that.
deal with it there. Don't
Exactly.
bring this big number even before the town meeting. I think that's what they're saying is, stay away from us with that big number.
That's not legal.
It's
You
legal
have to
come
show
tell
both
them that.
numbers.
Well,
You
the
no,
advice
it's
is from the town select boards not to come at it with this big budget, just to take the medicine, read the tea leaves, and fashion a budget that meets this objective without a floor fight on town meeting floor.
No.
That's what I hear the select board saying.
But what I'm saying is if that's what the select board is saying, that you don't want the actual requested number. We're talking about 4 towns here. The regional school district is made up of 4 towns. And the budget is going to be the least amount of money. I mean, I can't predict, I can't see in the tea leaves what the assessment will be. But I can pretty much know it probably won't be, it would be wonderful if it could be level funded, but it probably won't be. But what I'm saying is the legal opinion of the Department of Education requires the towns, this is what Northfield does, requires the towns to put the requested amount and the amount requested by the district. Because as David said, it's the district that makes up the budget. And then you, Warwick Selectboard and Finance Committee, I guess you do it together, can put the figure that is acceptable to you. You see what I'm saying? It could be even lower than what it's now, which whatever you are recommending. So you'll have a column that will say requested, and a column that will say recommended. And then the voters can decide, because it's not up to you, it's up to the voters, obviously. Do you understand what I'm saying? And what happened last year is you did not have the requested number on there. That's why I came to the committee and that's why I came to town meeting in May of 2014. And I had, because it came to our.
Last year's number, that's clear, that's a number, you want a number.
Yeah, okay, I don't know how to make this, do people understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, the Pioneer Valley Regional School District presents the budget. The school committee and the district work together, and over a period of months, I mean, it's March, you know, it's going to hopefully go down as we proceed, it generally does, and then we end up with a figure that we give to the towns of what we feel can be accomplished to maintain the high quality of education with the least amount of dollars. That's basically what we're trying to do. So then you get the number.
Taxes, you raised our assessment last year 8.5%. If we have level funding, that's 4.25%.
I know, but I'm not discussing that concept. I'm discussing the procedure by which you inform the voters, the procedure by which we get to the number that goes on the warrant. You have to have the number that comes out for the assessment for each town. It's all, you know, it's different for each town. Can't give you the exact formula now, but I don't think you understand the process, I guess is what I'm saying.
I think I understand the process, and I think that if the school board comes up with an assessment that is 2%, we might well back down at the last minute, but we have a position at this point that it is level funding from you, because that, over a 2-year span, is an unattainably high level of increases to this town. We can't do it.
Okay, maybe someone else can explain what I'm trying to say, because I'm not.
Nancy and then John.
I just, last year, I thought it was very confusing. And to my estimation, we have elected the people at the Pioneer, to the Pioneer Committee. They present us with their budget, what they feel it should be. I personally feel that that number should be put on there, and then your number, whatever your number is, if it's less, whatever, so that there is one number that is proposed by the Pioneer, who are people that we have elected. We have elected these people, and then you put yours on, and we have elected you also. But then we have a choice. We have a choice, and you have different people with different opinions. And then at the town meeting, we can say, oh, there's this one, and there's this one.
Agreed. That's exactly what should be put before them. And my suggestion for the number that we should put before them is 0 increase.
And I think that's fine, but also you have to have, may I speak again? I'm sorry. I do know parliamentary procedure. I agree with you. Yours should be on there, but so shouldn't the Pioneer Committee's number should be on there also.
It has to be by law.
It has to be.
That's why I brought it up. It has to be by law.
I think nobody here is seeing the picture. Okay? I'm on a fixed income. The government put me there. I don't want to be there. I didn't want to be there in '94 when they did it. The teachers in the school have to realize, you know, this isn't carte blanche. There's only so much money. I mean, they can't keep asking for these exorbitant amounts of money and expect to get it, because they have to realize if, just for instance, say Berniston and Warwick got together and pulled out of it, then where would you be? It wouldn't be a school district.
and Warwick got together and pulled, that's not how it works.
That is how it works, very simply. in its
No,
simplest
that's not how it
terms.
works.
In its simplest terms,
I
that's
I don't want,
possible.
I don't want to get into that at all.
But I'm just saying this, I don't know about anybody else in town, but when you're on a fixed income, I mean, I get my money on the 3rd of the month, on the 4th of the month it's gone. Half of it goes to a house payment, the other half goes to a tax. That's it. It's ridiculous.
Yes, I
The
know it.
taxes in this town, the tax collector
sorry.
stood up last year and said in the meeting, they can't keep doing this. She sat over there in that chair, Doran did, and giggled. It was funny. Because it wasn't coming out of her pocket. That really aggravated me. If she hadn't have giggled, it wouldn't have burnt me so bad. You know?
Can I-
There's no question that the budget presentation should include the department recommendation. The reason that it wasn't done that way last year or 6 years prior was that the finance committee, selectmen, and departments hammered this all out and came to a consensus number. And the school committee failed to communicate that that deal was over and they had their own ideas last year. But the 6 years prior to that I've been town coordinator, everybody worked it out prior to town meeting, and last year was the exception.
I was told that it was the same before because it was worked out between, maybe that's what you said and I misunderstood you. It was worked out between the school district and the town, and you were recommending essentially the same figure that was being requested.
We had this meeting,
So-
such as we're having on Tuesday, where we're invited, the select boards are invited to tell the school district what they can afford. And we had these meetings last year, the year before, and we attended them, we gave this advice, and we were listened to, and we came out the other end. Last year, there was a failure to communicate the fact that there was no agreement. We went to the meeting, we said what we could afford, we were heard, and never heard another word until town meeting, that anything was different.
So, can I just clarify that point? So you never got, so the district never sent you the figure to put on the warrant that was the requested amount? Is that what you're saying? So until I stood up in town meeting, you didn't even know that it was going to be higher?
Nah, that wouldn't be accurate, but we hadn't heard that, no, we're not going with Warwick's recommendation. Sorry, we can't do that this year, we didn't hear that.
I don't know.
So it's a new ballgame, and
It's not a
the
new
point
ballgame,
of-
it's just new figures.
Tuesday's meeting is to hear from the respective select boards.
Thursday.
Thursday's meeting is to hear from the respective select boards.
I suggest, on your idea of letting them know you want level funded, just let them know that their budget will be on the warrant, but you, as a select board, are also gonna put on the warrant
Right, have every right to do that.
item that says, whatever the difference is between last year and this year, will be on there to be deducted. That's all. So, in other words, basically what I was talking about earlier, with my petition on the warrant, how both of them will be on. So as long as you just form your statement to say that you will also have something on the warrant that will negate that, you put your point across to them. And maybe they might not go to that.
Honestly, I don't think they care.
And then it's just getting them out there. to the public.
Tom, Ms. Heather.
Yeah, I think there's a little elephant in the room that's not being said, which is that there was, and I don't know the procedure, exactly what happened, but there was a recommended amount by the Select Board and the Finance Committee, and there was a requested amount from the school district. The town meeting voted to go over what was recommended by the Select Board and the Finance Committee. And I think a lot of people didn't like that and don't like the long-term effects of it. And I just think that needs to be said.
Well, that's why we have
Yes.
a tax increase.
Yep.
Yes.
To me, it seems like there's the proposed budget, if there is a column that says requested amount, regardless of whether it's been settled with, the finance committee or not, there should be a requested, recommended, and then finally an approved amount. If that number is the number that you're requesting, then that should be in the paperwork like that. And if that's the case, then everybody will know and not see things otherwise.
I only have one copy of this. Whoever wants to see the format gets to pass it around.
Okay, I have it.
Got this column.
So that's gonna happen now. It should always have
Yeah,
happened.
we should always.
The suggested, the recommended, and all that should. Then they agreed on it.
Yes, Mark.
I promise this will be the last thing I say about it, but I know when I came to the meeting last year, there had been a lot of reference to sandbagging and blindsiding, and I guess I'm really not comfortable with that, because I feel like what I did was required by me as a school committee member. It came to my attention the same day as the town meeting, and I was told that the legality of it is this number needs to be presented. So I feel like maybe the select board and the finance committee, and maybe the people at the town meeting, if they feel like they were surprised, there shouldn't have been a surprise, but that's not on me. You know what I'm saying? That's not on the school committee, the surprise part of it. Because if it had been on the warrant all along, and the warrant, I think, is available, 2 weeks ahead of time, people would have been able to see the difference, and they wouldn't have been surprised. 47 people voted for it, 30 people voted against it, and as you say, as a result, the taxes went up. And, I can see why people feel that way, but I just want to make that point that it shouldn't really have been a surprise.
Madam Moderator, I can report that at the recent school committee budget hearing, for the first time in anybody's memory, the budget was not voted unanimously. There were three votes in opposition. I was one of them, and there was an abstention. And I was told it's the first time in anybody's memory that the entire school committee had everyone voted aye.
Okay, I guess we've exhausted that subject.
I think so.
What again are the times and places of the two meetings? Next week.
The Thursday meeting is at the finance group. And 31st is.
I don't even know what town the full school committee meeting is. Do you know? Mike?
Pardon me?
Where is the full school committee meeting the following Thursday?
I think it's a Pioneer. The next one is at Leiden, I think. But now, we don't have the agenda yet for that meeting, so I don't even know if the budget will be on the agenda, but I suppose it will be. But whether it is or not, everybody is welcome to come.
And that's March 26th?
Yes, if that's the date of Thursday, yeah.
26th or 31st?
31st is the broadband.
Oh, that's the broadband.
Okay. And do we have any correspondence?
Excuse me, his motion about taking position would be no increase in the assessment.
Okay.
Did you vote?
I thought there was a vote on that.
Oh, no, you started talking.
Okay. Then all in
There was no
favor?
vote.
I did second, didn't I?
You seconded, yes, because now you have your vote. Okay.
Aye. And any correspondence?
This one is largely mooted at this point, because my proposal was either, if it's not level funded, tell the voters who want to vote no on the school budget, budget, or tell them, and this could have been that for a warrant article, we wanted to begin a study of the feasibility of breaking up the district. We still could do that, and I think it would take the form of a warrant article, putting into the budget X number of dollars for consultant services on the feasibility of breaking up the district. We want to do both. We've agreed we're going to do one of the things, which is to vote no if it is fully funded. The question is, do we also want to do the other, or should we look at it as we've taken our choice between the two already?
I think let's wait until after the meeting.
I'm sorry?
Let's wait until after Thursday's meeting.
That sounds sensible.
I'd like to give the school committee a chance to do some reinvention. I think the point is slowly being made that to continue to do business in the same old way out into the future is not going to be possible. If you extrapolate student populations, there's a year out there where our population is 0. So I would say wait, because it's costly, it's annoying people to even talk about it, and what we really need are some short and long-term ways to save some money, cut some costs.
Yeah.
Okay, you still have another.
Actually, I have two things. We have Senator Rosenberg's annual seminar on Saturday, March 21st. Okay, and we have, and I'll pass this on to Open Space and Planning Board, have an annual Open Space Conference in May in Ashburn. Don't even have to go very far. That's what I got.
Annual open space.
Any select board reports? Nick, any report? Select board
Do I have a report? No.
I've got draft Select Board 2014 report attached, and I've got the draft broadband system report, and you don't have to do anything now, but if you see something you don't like, please let me know.
Do we have an opinion yet from the council on the broadband, whether the broadband enterprise fund can carry?
No, although I talked it over with our town accountant, who's usually the stumbling block for any time I want to allocate a cost. She saw no problem, so.
Any new or other business?
Before adjournment, I'd like to ask you a question. The threat to vote no on the budget becomes really meaningful if that threat is coming from two towns. So somebody should be going to another town and probably at this Bernston to say what we're doing. Jeff?
Thursday night, 5 o'clock. If they don't have a representative there, I will be astounded. I'll certainly reach out to the chairman on behalf of the Warwick Board, but I'll also post a select board meeting. Since both of you expect to attend this, we'll need to do that. And I would crack that one open at that gathering.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.